for the opportunity to share with the community and to do my best in about 15 minutes or so to compress the last half century of my life. So I came out of academic medicine at Boston University, did internal medicine under Norm Levinsky, did my doctorate under Carl Frenzweil in connective tissue crosslinks, then fortunately matriculated to the National Institutes of Health as a public health service officer assigned to the clinical center. Did a residency, ended up with double boards, ran the clinical center laboratory residency program. And each year that I was at the clinical center, we introduced a new method that became the reference method. Occult blood testing was the first. How platelets are activated by collagen was another one. The role of platelets and coagulation in predicting cardiovascular events was still another, and on and on. And I had the good fortune at the time to have excellent mentors, bosses who encouraged me to not just think outside the box, think about what if there's no box? What if we're actually in the wrong territory and we should be looking more functionally, more personally, more predictively, more proactively in personalized preventive protocols and practices. So that is what, through the Health Studies Collegium, a 30-plus-year-old not-for-profit foundation that is dedicated to testing and producing evidence about better outcomes through a comprehensive, holistic, integrative, yet personalized approach. So we have the most successful outcome study in type 1 diabetes and in type 2 diabetes as models of autoimmune disease. These were 6 months long in the community, best efforts, and starting from best standard of care, we reduced hemoglobin A1C by a full milligram%, which in essence added 20 years of quality life to people. And remember, we started from best standard of American Diabetes Association care. We did the same thing with fibromyalgia, and we have a community-based model that can use relatively small populations, but studied rather functionally and intensively and personally. And I will also mention that each of the studies we have done, while small in number of participants, yielded successful statistical meaningfulness at better than the 0.05 level. So not only do we have a model for community-based outcome studies, whether it be repair deficit inflammation or autoimmunity or other conditions where the neurochemistry, the hormones, the immune defense and repair system may be functioning less than well. We have then approaches that others have pioneered, and we stand on their shoulders. And we need, as Senator Tom Harkin often said, to shift from the sick care system of today to a healthful caring system for tomorrow. And we certainly advocate for that, are doing our best to demonstrate and pull the literature together, show that, for example, what you eat and drink, what you think and do matter. Start from nature, nurture, and wholeness as your guides. Use physiology before pharmacology. And yes, I'm a doubly board certified pathologist, but if you look at everything from the lens of pathology, you end up, frankly, looking at dysfunction, when maybe we should pay attention to the ability to evoke human healing responses by enhancing the essential nutrients and the essential components that we cannot make inside our body. They have to be taken in from the outside based on what we eat and drink, think and do. And notice it is about eating and drinking. You have to stay well hydrated. You have to have whole foods that are nutrient dense. And you also have to do what you believe to be the best thing for you at this time. And then I hope you will do inner space exploration, active meditation, mindfulness practice, or similar, while also seeking outside from wisdom traditions, those who can open up possibilities to you, like maybe the habits you learned from parents and grandparents are less functional more promotive of illness, because illness is transgenerational, but it's mostly habit, lifestyle, and choice. 92% is what we call epigenetics, only 8% is genetics. And in fact, your habits of daily living greatly influence how your genes are expressed, DNA, RNA, etc. And so I've tried to give you a sense of my excitement and enthusiasm for looking tomorrow at better ways of evoking healing responses, going back to fundamentals and essentials, going back to physiology, going back to engaged participation, because part of our outcome study model is for people on a bi-weekly, every 2 weeks basis, to have a time together, virtually or physically, where they can ask questions, where they can have their needs met. And that led to exceptionally high cooperation. And we had very simple entry and exit criteria: willingness and ability to comply, and qualifying for the condition, say type 1 or type 2 diabetes or fibromyalgia, muscle pain. So with that, if there are any questions, or if I can point you to, say, betterlabtestsnow.com or healthstudiescollegium.org, or even Dr. Russell Jaffe on YouTube or drrusselljaffe.com, please come and investigate the science, the evidence, and more importantly, the opportunity to apply this for yourself and for those you care about and care for.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Was I within time?
Yeah, no, it's perfect. There's lots of questions already.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
And
let's short answers if I can.
Yeah. So we'll sort of, the questions also going to come through just for the general COVID issues. So we'll
sure. Happy to.
So question number one, Kathy: if dogs do not get COVID, no, they do get COVID.
They do. They do. They do. Right.
So, but humans seemingly don't get it from them. So that's
no. That's correct. Canines can get COVID infections, but they do not transmit to people.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if I'm petting my dog, right, and perhaps he's been exposed to COVID, I'm fine.
Right.
You're fine.
Oh, right. Sounds very good.
Canine COVID and human COVID are different enough that don't kiss your dog, but even if your dog coughs, which by the way they don't do very much of, you're okay.
Okay.
You can pet the dog.
Next question: how on earth are states going to know which patients are higher risk and are to get priority? Are we giving access to our medical records?
Well, my view, and we have put this in an ebook, and folks are welcome to download it, or we'll send it to them if they request. But our view is that the comorbidities, the lung, heart, and vascular prior comorbidities, exposure to air pollution, tobacco and vaping, prior use of specific cardiac medications, prior cardiovascular issues, if you look carefully, say at high sensitivity C-reactive protein or other measures of inflammatory repair deficit. Our view was and remains that the people with comorbidities are the people who are at risk, and they're the ones who really intensively need to be cared for with hydration, supplementation, and what I would call caring and competence, because fear itself is very stressful. And many people today, they know they're supposed to be afraid, but they're not even sure what to be afraid of, because last week it was different than what you're supposed to be afraid of this week. So if you put it all together, and we've tried to do that, it's the people with comorbidities who need to be concerned, but you'd be surprised perhaps at how many young people are sedentary and actually lack pulmonary and cardiovascular reserve, and they are so stressed out that they underventilate. They have to learn how to breathe again. So it's a complex set of comorbidities that we think are the risk factor, and they are manageable epigenetically.
Great, it's a great answer. In terms of our location, what I know is that none of the patients, unless you live in a nursing home, and even then it's not 100% clear, are going to be in the first line. How the distribution will occur down the road, I think it's less clear, but let me just give you a basic sense of numbers. So DC, for the whole DC, got 7,000 doses. GW got 900, and that's for approximately 10,000 employees, roughly. So, I mean, we're looking at, even within large institutions, they have to decide on how to prioritize. So, for example, there is a complex questionnaire that I just filled out at GW that's sort of going to help them to rank who's at the highest risk. And it's a combination of your personal risk, meaning everything Dr. Jaffe just mentioned, plus how often and how severely are you exposed. So, for example, an ICU nurse or an ER physician probably going to be way more likely to be on a high priority list than me, because the only thing when I'm exposed is on the consults, and I pretty much can know a lot more as to what the risk of the patient that I'm going to see versus those in emergency room or in ICU, when they're exposed and they often don't even know what's going on because they're first line seeing the patient. Things can, so they're high risk. So that's the answer to that question.
No question. However, those who are at high risk, but who also have any history of atopy or allergy, should hold back. Because we are being informed that for a few days after the vaccine, you're probably going to feel like you have the flu. And if you get Bell's palsy, or if you have an anaphylactic reaction, that'll take you out of action for a while. So yes, the highest risk people are going to be stratified first. I don't think anyone has all the answers by any means. America seems to be woefully unprepared for something we ought to be very well prepared for. However, because the data we have seen, and this includes even at the FDA, is very preliminary, I think people who want the vaccine and are at very high risk should be given priority. The people at high risk who are doing what we recommend in terms of lifestyle prophylaxis, and who notice the risk that, whether it's Bell's palsy or whatever, that they would like to avoid. I think it's going to be a timed sequence, and that you won't do the whole ER or the whole ICU team at one time, because you actually might need to bring in a replacement team for some period of time.
Awesome. Okay, very good. So I'm gonna skip some questions. Go to Salome. I'll come back to you. mRNA versus DNA only if we have time. It's a very complex question. It's an important question, but I kind of wonder if we can. It's not a short answer. So, but I do want to address Linda's question first. So, is there anything in the ingredients of the Pfizer mRNA vaccine that are contraindicated for certain medical conditions? I think Dr. Jaffe started.
Well, it's the PEG. It's the polyethylene glycol.
Right, and if so, which ones? And also CIRS. That's so Ms. Blazer means it's a chronic inflammatory response syndrome.
Right. Well, if you look at the T cells, which are the ones that are important, the T class or thymus-derived white blood cells, lymphocytes. If you look at the T cell response, depending on the study you read, between 1/2 and 3/4 of people exposed to PEG, polyethylene glycol, develop allergic, allergenic, atopic, hypersensitivity reactions. They may be more mild, they may be more severe, but they are present in 1/2 to 3/4 of the people exposed to PEG, polyethylene glycol. Now, why do they include PEG in the Pfizer vaccine? Because they have to. They're not putting it in to harm you. They're putting it in because otherwise the innate immune system would recycle the RNA that comes in, the vaccine that comes in, would be recycled and you get no vaccination. So the polyethylene glycol and the lipid which is used to protect the RNA, are essential to get the vaccine to work. On the other hand, with the benefit of hindsight, I'm pretty sure they're going to have a new generation of vaccine very soon without the PEG.
Okay, great. I also want to add a couple of things. So, we've just talked about this at Grand Rounds yesterday. It's very concerning for patients who have a history of anaphylactic reaction.
Yes.
So there's not a good answer.
Well, no. Let me jump in. Mm-hmm. The old-fashioned patch test. This is a skin test where you rough the skin, you put a drop of what you're going to use on, say, a Band-Aid. You put the Band-Aid on the spot. You ask the person to look at 12, 24, 48, and 72 hours. If there is a reaction, you will see it. They will notice it. If you get a reaction, do not use that. If you don't, that's pretty good clinical information that it is safe if the person is at risk and desirous.
Mm-hmm. So the other category is patients with a chronic autoimmune conditions and a significant inflammatory responses. I think that would include CRS. Yeah, there's, again, that same. I mean, I'm not exactly sure anybody has a good answer. I would probably say be very cautious. Maybe even avoid the first-line vaccine. And frankly, in a way, Linda, you're not going to get it anytime soon anyway. Right. So it's not, so there's going to be months and months of wait, and more data will undoubtedly come out, so we'll know. Right. The bigger problem is that the study, the way it was designed for both Pfizer and Moderna vaccine, excluded all those patients. So
it was a phase 1-2 study, folks. It was specifically to look at what's called safety tolerability. And yes, they did some efficacy, but it was safety tolerability. Exactly right, Misha. This was the not risk population. This was the low risk population. Okay, as we say in Jerusalem, Mazel Tov. Now the question is what you just raised. What about the people, of which there are many, with chronic inflammatory or autoimmune conditions? And I will add, we urge people to have a healthy vitamin D level. We urge people to have enough ascorbate, fully buffered, fully reduced nature's ascorbate as an antioxidant. We urge people to have enough magnesium choline citrate to make their ATP and systems work. And you do dramatically lower your risk, even if you have an inflammatory or autoimmune condition, when you optimize your essentials. And we've touched on several. I didn't mention omega-3, but I should mention EPA and DHA. I take 5 to 10 grams a day to balance out my omega-3 to omega-6 essential fats. And we can dramatically impact the risk of consequences from what I would call experimental vaccines.
Could you make available the ebook that you mentioned?
Oh, yes. Anyone who looks at drrussellJaffe.com, drrussellJaffe.com, RUSSELLJAFFE.com. My mother wanted me to spell that. She's passed, but she edits everything I do. So yes, drrussellJaffe.com, and just put in your request. We will send you the updated. So we put out an ebook, then we updated it with more recent evidence. And there is more and more evidence that we were right, that the comorbidities are critical, that you can assess who is at risk, and you can dramatically reduce the chances of serious symptoms or catastrophe.
Thank you.
Okay, let's do 2 more questions. One should be quick. So Mary Beth, did we answer your question? Are you okay with because we basically answered your question by answering Linda's question.
Fine, thank you.
Okay. All right, and then one more question. Let's do Benita's question. So that means people with mast cell activation syndrome should likely hold off getting vaccines. What about dysautonomia? There are reports that people getting COVID are developing POTS and other forms of dysautonomia. I don't think that dysautonomia as a primary condition, say patients with EDS, for example, should really avoid the vaccine, because that's not a pro-inflammatory state. It's just dysautonomia is a different condition.
Right.
Dysautonomia is the result of COVID, and we're seeing a very substantial proportion of a long-term long haulers, as we call them, develop POTS symptoms. In fact, I just met, Dr. Freeman and I just met with the head of the new COVID clinic at GW, and she specifically described to us what they do. So if the patient has the POTS symptoms, we actually have a cardiologist specializing in this that's going to see these patients. So I don't see that as a contraindication for the vaccine. The muscle activation is different. That one, I would say probably hold off until we know more.
Right, so tissue mastocytosis, Dr. Michael Calliner made his bones, if you will, at NIH with making that syndrome not understood. When the tissues have mast cells in them, it's because the innate immune defense and repair system is in survival mode, not in elective protective mode. When it's in elective protective mode, on your surface, on your mucosa, on your skin, there's secretory IgA, there's mucins, there's opsonins, there's defensins. When they fail, when the innate immune system is choked up with too much bad stuff and not enough good stuff, that's when tissue mastocytosis comes in. And yes, it's a contraindication to the current vaccine.
Great. So I think with that, we're right on time. I think we also managed to somehow get most of the questions done. So,
good. Oh, good.
Yael, over to you. Janet, do you want to have anything to say, or we'll hold off until after?
No, let's hold off till after.
Got it. Good.
Okay.
And just remind me how much time I have so I could
I say, let's say 25 minutes, 27 minutes, somewhere in there.
Okay, perfect.
Leave a couple of minutes for announcements and maybe the last question or two.
Okay, perfect. So we're gonna do, hi everybody. We're gonna do a chair yoga practice today. And the first thing I wanna do is teach you how to sit in your chair for yoga. So what I want to invite you to do, it just because a lot of us are short, some of us are, you know, tall. I'm looking at Nadia, who is a beautiful kind of tall model. But for the rest of us, let me invite you, like if when you're sitting, you're like me and your legs kind of swing, then what I want to invite you to do, I have funny shaped blocks, but you can also use books. So in general, when you're sitting, it's really helpful to have your knees at about hip height or even slightly above rather than have your legs kind of descend. So just, and I'm gonna come a little bit closer for this first part, but I just wanted to let you know, like even when I'm sitting on my desk, at my desk and I'm working, I'm almost always sitting up on blocks just to help. And you're gonna find that that's going to be a real boon for your low back. So wherever you are, let me invite you to get really comfortable here in your chair. And you know, you could move a little bit from side to side. Just kind of, yeah. Oh, I see, I love Jeanette because she's always like dancing with me. So beautiful. And then let's just, we are at this time, Hanukkah just started, so I'm wearing my Hamsa yoga pants. But we are between Thanksgiving and the other holidays. So I kind of see this time as between gratitude and generosity. So though this year is different than any other year, I know that there's also, all of us are grieving all kinds of losses that we've had. But for right now, for this 20-something minutes that we have together, just bring in a little bit of gratitude and that sense of generosity that season is opening up. And we'll start with our breath. If it's comfortable for you, close your eyes. If that's not comfortable, then just kind of gaze down. You don't have to look directly at the screen. And you could take one or both hands over the heart. You might be able to sense your heart beating all on its own without any effort from you. We could be grateful for that. And for this next breath, let yourself take in a couple of really delicious inhales. And then feel free to open the mouth and sigh it out. Just sensing the space underneath your hands, rising and falling. And in this way, we're sensing the very top of our lungs. Coming into a nice rhythm now. So just like there's a rhythm of seasons, there's a natural rhythm in our bodies. And the breath is one of those rhythms. Good. Slide one hand now to the kind of upper portion of your belly, right by the ribs. I'm just going to take my hand a little bit to the right. And this time, as I breathe in and out, I'm noticing the movement in my rib cage as well. Really letting this breath feel good. Letting that breath make you even wider. Particularly on the inhale, you can feel everything expand, and on the exhale, everything just releases and relaxes. Good. And we can now put your hands, you could just put the back of your hands somewhere along the back ribs. We don't often, because we don't see our backs, we often forget to feel our breath in the back. So let's take a moment to appreciate that we are three-dimensional beings. And when we breathe in and out, you might even be able to feel this. The back body also moves. Good. Grateful for this beautiful breath and our bodies, however they are today. This is perfect. From our fingers to our toes. And when you're ready, we're going to open up our eyes. And we're going to just start with something very, very simple for our hands. So as you're sitting here, let's hover the hands just over the thighs. And let's take our index fingers and just touch your thigh with the tip of your index finger. And we're going to roll the fingers over our thighs. So we're rolling over every joint. All the joints in your body, yoga and also Chinese medicine teaches us that where we get out of rhythm, where things get stuck, especially energetically, is in the joints. So we're just going to allow ourselves, even these small joints, which we tend to ignore, we're going to think about them today. And you can apply as much pressure as feels good. This is good if you have arthritis or if you want to prevent arthritis in your hands. Good. And then as you're ready, we're going to switch. So we'll take the index finger and we'll just roll forward and back. And again, as much weight as feels comfortable for you. So I find that these two fingers are the easiest. But let's do this little piggy went to the market. Let's do the ring finger. Ooh, so the ring fingers and the pinky fingers are connected to the shoulder blades, to the back of the body. And so you might feel this in a different kind of way. Yeah, and I can't help it. I'm sort of like, I went to Orthodox Jewish school when I was a kid, so I'm praying forward and back with the fingers. So any other movement is cool. And then let's do our little pinkies. Kind of creepy. Make sure to breathe. Make sure to do some exhales. Okay, and then let's get the thumbs in. So the thumbs we kind of have to do sideways. The hands are so important in basically in every religion. What I called the Hamsa, the hand of Miriam to Jews, the hand of Mary to Christians, the hand of Fatima to Muslims. Good. And then let's just interlace our fingers, and to the extent that feels good, we could go ahead and just roll through the wrist as quickly as you want. Now separate the hands so that your thumbs are up, the palms are facing towards you. Separate the fingers. For this one, everyone, do me a favor, close your eyes. We're going to test our proprioception. We're just going to see if with eyes closed, we can return to that interlaced finger stance. You could look. Close the eyes, open them up. This one might be a little harder. Interlace your fingers in the non-habitual way with the opposite index finger on top. It's going to feel weird. And then we're just going to go ahead one more time and just roll out the wrist. Just roll out the wrist. This is good if you're on your cell phone or your computer a lot. Good. And then let's go ahead and shake. So shaking of anything is so good for us. James Gordon, who's a physician at Georgetown, teaches a lot of whole body shaking. We could shake wide, and we could shake in. Good. And then just pause. Take your hands to your lap, palms up or palms down, whatever feel good. If it's comfortable for you, close the eyes. If not, just a soft gaze. And see if you can sense already a shift. Good. From here, open up your eyes. Let's shrug the shoulders. Drop. Just do this a few times, kind of bunch it up. And then release. One more time, bunch and release. And we could start to draw really nice circles as though we are the soup spoon and the pot at the same time. So rocking and rolling here. And then we could take it in the opposite direction. Good. And then we could just kind of shimmy however you want, because I see we have dancers in the room. So if you want to do a little snake arms, you can do that. Awesome. Little more shoulder work. Let's reach as high as you can up in the sky with one hand and the other. We could think about this as climbing rope. You might not be able to reach both arms all the way up. Who cares? Just reach what you can. And then Dr. Jaffe mentioned permaculture. So let's pull carrots or sweet potatoes. So reaching for the ground. And begin, instead of just reaching straight down, just finding maybe a diagonal. And we could do the same thing, cross body, reaching for that jar of honey on the shelf. Right, so just reaching. Good. And then let's pause here. Actually, let's reach with the right arm all the way up. Stay here, or you could take the left hand to the chair and just come on into a side bend. We're opening up through this right side body. Good. And then come all the way up. Go over to the other side. So even notice how just reaching your arm up, you're engaging through the side body, and we could take it a little bit more deeply if we want. Big breath in and big breath out. Good. Let's cross our arms in front of the body. Just give yourself with your fingers just right here. These are, I think in acupuncture, these are called wind points. We're just going to give ourselves, you know how they always hurt right there? Just dig your fingers in for a moment. Giving ourselves a little massage, grateful for the touch, even if it's just from our own hands. Good. And then from here, we're just going to take some simple twists. So you can relax your hands down, your fingers down. We're going to keep our hips facing forward. Take a big inhale here. And on an exhale, just turn to the right. Doesn't matter how far you go. You might just go a tiny bit. That's fine. Take another inhale, really feeling your sit bones in the chair. On the exhale, maybe, God forbid, sit up a little bit taller. See if you can open your chest just a smidgen more. Let's do one more breath here. And then on an exhale, we'll just come to center, switch your hands. The weird one on top, right? Inhale here, get really tall, the best that you can, says the lady who's 5 feet. Turn to face the left. And let's take a few breaths here. We're really lengthening on the inhale. And with the exhale, maybe you could go a little bit further. Good, back to center. And do you guys remember I Dream of Genie? Let's come into I Dream of Genie. Same thing. So we're just going to take a big inhale, exhale to twist. Take another full breath, inhaling, exhaling. You might notice that you can go a little bit further here. Good, one last inhale. Exhale back through center. Switch to the opposite side. Good, inhale. Sometimes just the little things in the middle of our day. Inhaling and exhaling. Good, one more inhale. And then we'll exhale. Good, maybe we'll be like helicopters now. So we'll take the arms out to the sides as though we're touching each other, right? Because we're all like the Brady Bunch. Maybe our hands could actually even touch. And now we're just going to keep it moving like a whirring helicopter. So inhale here, exhale, inhale back through center, exhale, good, inhale, exhale, come back through center, exhale, good. Come back through center, and this time let's hold in our twist. So we're going to come to the right. You could have your right hand back behind you. Maybe that left hand is gently on your thigh. You could always look in front or look to the side or look down. Just depends on what feels good. Good. With ease, let's just release. We'll take it to the other side. Try to sit up nice and tall. Good. And then we'll release. Just for a moment, let's get a little bit of neck action. So just taking your head to the right and to the left. What are you going to say no to in 2021? They say that your yeses aren't full yeses. They're not committed yeses unless you also know what you have to say no to. Good. We'll come back through center, chin up and chin down. It might feel good to gently release through the jaw here a little bit. In other words, separate your mouth, your lips, and your teeth. Good. Chin parallel to the ground. And finally, let's just drop that right ear over towards the right shoulder. If you want, you could take that left arm out to the side. You could also just hold it down, so you don't need to, but for some people, kind of reaching with your left fingers down or even below shoulder height for sure can be very releasing, right? Good. So I want you to keep your head as it is. Take your right fingertips to your temple and use your fingers rather than the muscles of your neck to draw your head back to parallel. Ha. Do the other side. Left ear, left shoulder. You could stay right here or feel free to tickle the ivories. I don't know if anyone's learned how to play piano during the pandemic. Good. And then use your left hand, take it right to the temple, come back up. Awesome. And then let's get just a little bit for our legs here. So we're gonna interlace your hands again below the knee and just draw that right knee up towards your chest. At the same time, don't do shlumpasana, right? Like, see if you could sit up. And yes, I say shlumpasana all the time in yoga class, right? So shoulders moving away from the ear. Awesome. Move your leg now towards straight, so there might still be a bend, and draw some big circles with your feet. Sorry, a call was coming in and I think if you didn't circle around in the opposite direction, go ahead. If anyone knows how to help me deal with that on Zoom after the call, let me know. Okay, let's do the other side. So now we're gonna lift up through this opposite leg. Remember to sit up nice and tall. That's part of the deal. Good. And then straighten out the leg. So we're stretching out through our hamstrings. Circle. Snap, crackle, pop. Going in both directions. Awesome. Come back through center. Okay, we're gonna do that again, but you can use your hands or do sort of the Lukma no hands. So just lifting up through that leg. And then maybe straightening through that leg. It's much harder than it looks. It looks very effortless, doesn't it? Not at all. Good. And then let's do the other side. Remember, feel free to keep using the hand there. You can also hold on to the sides of the chair. And then maybe straightening out through that leg. Good. Releasing and let yourself, I'm just gonna move myself back, but let yourself just take a little bit of a forward fold here, reaching just as far down the shins as you like. You can drop your head. Okay, we're gonna roll on up. We're gonna do one lunge, just one lunge. So to lunge in a chair, you're gonna turn sideways on your chair. So I'm facing the right. My right glute, my right bum is on the chair, and my left is completely in the air. I'm gonna hold on to the back of my chair, and I recognize that we're all on different kinds of chairs. So if this is too much, don't worry, you could just watch. And then I'm going to extend this this left leg back. I could extend it back a little bit or a lot. Just depends on what I'm feeling like. I could keep holding on to the chair, or I can come up into cactus arms, or I could reach my arms up. So just see what feels good here for you. And take a couple of breaths. Good. Wherever you are, release. Oops, my earring just caught onto my shirt. Let's take goddess pose for just a minute, just separating out through the legs. We're moving our knees back. I could take one shoulder down to the opposite knee, shoulder down to the opposite knee. That's a beautiful move. Let's do it one more time. Left shoulder, right knee, right shoulder, left knee. There's so much fun you could do in a chair. And then I'm just gonna scooch my body over to the other side. I should have said that this is a really good lunge. So in this time, my left bum is on the chair, my right isn't. Feel free to stay here, or you could make it more active by extending that leg back. Feel free to stay here, or you could take a couple of breaths with your arms lifted, right? Or in cactus pose, whatever feels good for you. Grateful for this breath, grateful for this ability to move, grateful for the sky, grateful for all this wisdom which comes to us on Fridays. Good, come back through center. Let's see, let's cross our left knee over the right, as though you're just sitting at a bar stool. And we'll do a final twist. Nothing too fancy. Come back through center, other side. By the way, if crossing your legs in this way doesn't feel good, don't do it. Just a suggestion. Okay, let's come back through center. Just a couple of final breaths here in a meditation posture. I want to teach you one of my favorite mudras to reduce anxiety and fear, since that was brought up. It's called Adi Mudra. You're going to take your thumbs to the inside of your palms and then wrap all the other fingers around it. Okay, so that you're really holding on to your thumbs. Fists can be up or down. Close the eyes if it's okay for you to do so. You may sense your heart beating from that lunge we just did. It can be surprising how much energy and heat we can create even while seated. Good. Bring to mind someone who you're grateful for, someone you love, and someone who loves you. It could be a human, but it doesn't have to be. It could be someone who's close by or someone who's far. It could be someone who's who's here in the flesh, or someone who has become an ancestor. Just picture them here. Your own light. I'm grateful for the relationships that we have that support us. And we could also include everyone who's here in the circle with us today as those lights. Amongst us, those lights that are sustaining us in this season of winter. Good. I'll invite you now to just take your hands very lightly, palms touching in front of the chest. Maybe we have tapped into a sense of lightness inside, and it's because of our ability to see our own lights that we can see the lights clearly emanating from one another. In gratitude, we take one last big inhale as a circle. And on the exhale to one another, we bow. Thank you so much for sharing this practice with me this afternoon.
Thank you, Yael.
Thank you. How are folks feeling?
Thank you, Yael.
You're welcome.
Janet, I think we only have time to give announcements about upcoming weeks rather than, and I don't really see any more questions. So thank you, Dr. Jaffe. It was such a delight. We have to have you back sometime in the spring. And Janet, so we are not doing next week. No, next week we're doing, right?
Yes,
It's
yes.
18th. Okay.
So next week we are going to be meeting again, and then we're going to go on break. So there's a message in the chat. We'll probably be on break from December 21st to January 4th. So while we're on break, that's a great time to go back through videos of past events. And I think that's about it. Misha, do you have anything? Dr. Jaffe, Yael?
Stay safe. Do not ease up on the continuous distancing and precautious. Don't get relaxed, unfortunately.
Verily, amen. I agree with that, Misha.
So,
This is not the time to get lax. This is the time to be prudent, careful, loving, and therefore next year we will all be here, as opposed to we might not.
I think that is a perfect way to end today. Everyone have a wonderful